Recently, over a 5-day period, June 18th through the 22nd, I spent time with approximately 3,300 people attending our denomination's annual General Assembly, or GA for short. This annual General Assembly, of which approximately 800 were online and 2,500 were in person in Baltimore, Maryland, was a mixture of inspiring and educational workshops, along with the annual business meetings of our denomination. Imagine being in a convention center filled with Unitarian Universalists. It is truly an inspiring experience for me to participate in GA because it makes me feel connected to a greater number of Unitarian Universalists and to the bigger picture of what our denomination can accomplish in this country. I feel hopeful when I attend GA and see so many others who share my values and aspirations for the world. I was just one of 1,900 delegates out of the 3,300 people that attended. One can attend GA and not be a delegate, and just participate in the wonderful, varied presentations, authored talks, and many worship services. For financial reasons and convenience reasons, I chose to participate as a business-only delegate online. By attending remotely, I can get snacks and go to the bathroom whenever I want, more easily than in person, and I also protect myself from the overwhelm of social interactions that I find hard to manage. Delegates to the General Assembly agree to attend the business sessions each day of GA and to participate in the voting that takes place at specific sessions. I feel a stronger connection to our faith by taking part in the voting. I feel voting on the directions Unitarian Universalists take in the coming years is a privilege as I vote on the leadership and the topics we agree to focus on. I feel as strongly about participating as a delegate as I do about voting in our city, county, state, and national elections. I want to be a part of the decision-making that affects my life. That is one of the rare and special characteristics of our faith. We get a say in what action items are and in the people who lead us. It is a privilege I value. This year, there were leadership positions to vote on, the most important being who would be our moderator for the coming 6 years. The moderator works closely with the board and the executive staff and the committees of UUAA and runs the board meetings. They also facilitate General Assembly each year. They work with the president of our denomination and I believe support the very heart of our denomination. This year, it was a contested election. We were fortunate to have a set of great candidates, and ultimately Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson and Bill Young were selected as co-moderators for the next 6 years. Two other things that were voted on were the Congregational Study Action Issue, or CSAI, and the Actions of Immediate Witness, or AIWs. I have always in the past had a difficult time with these acronyms and keeping them straight, but I finally got them straight this year. The key is the length of study time connected to each. The Congregational Study Action Issue is an issue chosen to be studied for 3 years. Congregations can participate in this long study by taking a deep dive into the chosen issue through programming provided over the 3-year period. The Congregational Study Action Issue chosen this year was Abolition, Transformation, and Faith Formation, sponsored by the Church of the Larger Fellowship Unitarian Universalists. Our own restorative justice program was in support of this issue being chosen and will lead our congregation in efforts to further educate ourselves about dismantling the prison industrial complex we currently know and acknowledging the almost 2,000 incarcerated Unitarian Universalists that call the Church of the Larger Fellowship their home. If you are interested in this topic, please contact our restorative justice group. They will be in the social hall next week, July 13th. The other issues voted on were the Action of Immediate Witness, or AIWs. The Actions of Immediate Witness are topics congregations can study through the coming year and come with a more urgent tone, being issues that the delegates feel need to be brought to the attention of congregations and members immediately. Last year, one of the AIWs was Solidarity with Palestine, which led our congregation to adopt our corresponding resolution. This year, the delegates chose the following 3 topics for congregations to focus on in the coming year. Immigrants are people who have inherent worth and inalienable rights. Faithful defiance of authoritarianism, and funding global LGBTIQ freedom amid crisis. Each of these topics are important and areas of critical concern in the current climate of our world. If you have any interest in furthering our congregation's education on these topics, please see one of the GA delegates this year and we can point you to resources. Even though the days of the actual General Assembly are over, one of the things I like about our faith is these study topics that call us to engage with current problems and issues. The business of General Assembly affects our future and present. We get to choose how we interact and educate ourselves about these pressing issues. We get to involve ourselves at whatever level we can to bring about justice and transformation in our world. Love is always at the center of our values, and we are participants pairing action with our truths. Thank you.
Like Cindy, I attended General Assembly as a delegate online, but unlike Cindy, I opted for full registration rather than business only. So I attended workshops and worship services as well as the business sessions. One of the highlights for me was a workshop called Reconciling the Past, Repairing the Future, about the predominantly white UU Church in Nashua, New Hampshire. Around 2016, when the news was full of stories about police brutality against Black people, the church's social justice working group asked themselves, how can we help? What can we do? They happened to learn about a Black minister named Jeffrey Campbell, who had been a part of their congregation, but they didn't know anything about him. So they started doing research. They looked in their church's archives, in books about Black UUs, and in the local newspaper, seeking information about this minister who they considered their spiritual ancestor. They found a lot of information. The more they learned, the more surprised they were that Reverend Campbell had been completely forgotten. They found that Jeffrey Campbell was born in 1910 to a Black father and a white mother. He joined the Universalist Church of Nashua when he was 18 years old and was very involved in the church and the community. He attended seminary, graduated in 1933, and was ordained as a Universalist minister in 1935. They also learned that Reverend Campbell experienced much racism throughout his career. For example, he was never called to full-time ministry by any congregation. His home church in Nashua never invited him to speak in their pulpit even once, despite his having been so active there. He died in 1984, and he was disappeared from history. Not even his home church knew about him. When the Social Justice Working Group learned about all of this, they determined to do what they could to make amends and to make things right. They started by presenting what they had learned about Reverend Campbell in an educational service in their church. They looked for Reverend Campbell's grave and found that he, his mother, and his sister were buried in a single unmarked grave in Nashua. Without a headstone, they were erased from view even in the cemetery. The working group felt a need to atone, and they thought that placing a gravestone would be the beginning of atonement. They contacted Campbell's daughters, apologizing for the way the church and the whole faith had treated Campbell, and asking for permission to put a headstone on the grave. The daughters gave their permission. They raised money for a gravestone, and when it turned out that they had raised more money than they needed, they donated the leftover funds to Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, an organization for Black UUs. In 2018, they held a service of remembrance and reconciliation, presenting what they had learned in their research. They invited Reverend Campbell's family, the mayor and alderman of Nashua, folks from the local NAACP chapter, and people from UU churches in their district. The executive vice president of the Unitarian Universalist Association spoke at this service, apologizing to the Campbells on behalf of the denomination. And they didn't stop there. The church committed themselves to working for a world where what happened to the Campbells doesn't happen again. They took their educational presentation to UU churches in New Hampshire, Vermont, and Massachusetts, and to the local chapter of the NAACP. This led to their becoming connected with an organization that is committed to telling the stories of Black New Hampshireans. Every year, they have a Campbell Day of Action where they retell the story and they all take some real action. They continue to donate money to Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism. It occurred to them to wonder where the church's money came from. They found out that most of the wealth of the congregation came from cotton mills, weaving cotton that was grown by slave labor. So despite being in New England, it turned out that they had in fact directly profited from slavery. Reverend Campbell wrote several times about the disparity between what the church preaches and what it does. It struck the working group that the fact that the church's money came from slavery is an example of not practicing what they preach. And I wonder what similar stories might exist in the history of our congregation. Were there non-white congregants or people from other marginalized groups that have been disappeared from our memory? Did we profit from slavery? Were we involved in oppressing the indigenous peoples of the area? I found this workshop inspiring, both because of the story of Reverend Jeffrey Campbell and because of the ongoing commitment of the Nashua Church to do what they could do to make things right. Even decades after a wrong is committed, we can work towards repairing the world.
Good morning. I'm Bob Dinan. I attended GA in person this year. I always keep an eye out for GA locations that are drivable from Ann Arbor. I only attended one other GA, that was back in 2016. I feel like this is kind of loud. In Columbus, Ohio. Unlike Columbus 9 years ago, in Baltimore, there were only a handful of us attending from First UU, virtually or in person, which meant that any session I walked into, it was unlikely that I would know anybody at first. Because it was very easy to meet people, strike up a conversation, and quickly find out how much we had in common. I met UUs from all over the country, including from Kansas, South Carolina, Minnesota, California, Hawaii, and of course, many from Maryland. Even though GA is huge, I was surprised how often I would run into someone that I'd had a good conversation with earlier. I elected to stay outside of the city, so my days started with a short drive downtown. At 9 o'clock each morning, we gathered for worship service, centered around themes like Juneteenth, celebrating our diverse global faith, and on the summer solstice, honoring the planet through our pagan traditions. Each afternoon consisted of 3-hour general sessions where the business of the UUAA is conducted. As a delegate, it was understood that I would be in attendance for at least the last 90 minutes. Sometimes it felt like 90 days. 90 minutes of the 1 to 4 p.m. sessions to hear presentations and to make crucial votes on CSAIs and AIWs, as Cindy explained. During the first 90 minutes of the general session each afternoon, there was counter-programming on a wide range of topics of interest. From Thursday through Saturday, I attended sessions on preventing catastrophic loss, community care and deportation defense, led by immigration leaders from Border Links and UU Rise. Another day, it was In Service to Truth, Maryland Lynching Memorial Projects. Let me pull these out here. Led by the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission and supported by many Maryland UUs. You may be surprised and saddened to learn that the Maryland Project has documented 38 lynchings in the state between 1854 and 1933. And they are all listed on the back of this brochure to honor them. And finally, on the occasion of the 25th anniversary of the publication of the OWL curriculum, I attended OWL Sexuality Education as a Community Care Innovation, a presentation of ideas on expanding community access to OWL beyond the four walls of our church. And in association with the anniversary, they had a big birthday cake and a celebration, and they handed out little tchotchkes like condoms that say, "Safer sex takes more than prayers." "My faith values pleasure." And then a number of stickers like, basically, sex ed saves lives. The featured session each day came right after lunch. Meet the Moment is both the theme of this year's GA and a movement-wide framework helping youth analyze, discern, and take values-based action in response to today's religious, cultural, generational, and political realities. Across the 90-minute session each morning, we attended to these three grounding questions. What is the moment we are in? What are the most urgent needs and important opportunities of this moment? And how do our UU values call us to respond to this moment? Our small and large group discussions built on the work done by the UUA over the last 6 months using WAVE cohorts, groups of people with knowledge and experience in specific aspects of our shared ministry. During GA, participants could engage in one of 11 different WAVE cohorts, such as faith development of whole church ministry, meeting the needs of parents as whole beings, and being guided by youth into the future. So you can kind of get an idea of the breadth of things that were offered. Because it related to our Vision 2050 goals, I chose, and this is kind of a mouthful, intersectional, anti-racism, anti-oppression, and multiculturalism transformation in UU organizations. Basically, how can we apply it to the different groups that we are involved with at the church? So the discussions were stimulating and thoughtful. The intention is that UUs across the country will join virtual WAVE cohorts this fall in areas that interest them. To learn more, I invite you to search on Meet the Moment at UUA.org. Late afternoons featured author talks, and I attended too. Pull it out. Deepa Iyer, whose book Social Change Now, A Guide for Reflection and Connection, will be a UUA common read this year. And Gloria J. Brown Marshall, a powerful speaker and organizer. I'm looking forward to reading her book on a protest history of the United States. The Ware Lecture has taken place on the Saturday evening of GA since 1922, featuring a guest speaker with a critical message for the times we live in. This year, transgender speaker and activist Imara Jones captivated the audience with her powerful message, quote, "There is no way to save democracy without standing up for trans rights," unquote. If you search on Ware Lecture at UUA.org, you can find videos of past speeches and, hopefully, soon, this year's speech. GA concluded with worship service on Sunday with powerful words and a huge and awesome choir, soloists, and dancing. It was a fitting way to wrap up 4 days of love and learning. Managing the extensive GA agenda required some handy tech, and that's where the WOVA app, or Hoover app, I'm not sure, WOVA app shined. The app allowed attendees to tailor an agenda to their needs and interests. Maybe more importantly, it allowed attendees to create individual meetups, such as morning runs, or afternoon walks, or shopping trips. I joined 2 dinner meetups with people I didn't even know, and it was fun. One night, 3 of us went to a great vegan restaurant a few miles away. Another night, a much larger group met up at a closer, even better vegan restaurant. Get a theme here? That barely got us out of there in time for the Ware Lecture. Does all of this sound exhausting? Well, it was a little, but it was so worth it. All in all, GA is the perfect opportunity to convene with UUs from around the country to apply our principles and values to the challenges ahead of us, while also enjoying great music, worship, and fellowship. In the past, I've shied away from the all-virtual GAs, but after this experience, I'm looking forward to the all-online GA next year, and then the in-person GA conference in San Jose in 2027. I hope to once again be a delegate representing our great congregation. We will all be in the social hall, or right outside, after the service if you have any questions. Thank you very much.